Welcome to Beer 101. This course is aimed at offering students a better understanding of one of the world's oldest forms of beverage. The origins of beer are really unclear. The first writings about beer happened in the 5th millennium BCE. Both the ancient Egyptians and the ancient Mesopotamians described beer as being a mix of cereals and sugars which were fermented by yeasts in the air. Here is an ancient Sumerian tablet, said to be from 6000 BCE. The tablet is said to depict people drinking beer from a communal bowl, from reeds or straws. Throughout the ages, the art of brewing and crafting beers has grown immensely. Today, the brewing industry is a global business, consisting of several multinational companies, and hundreds of thousands of smaller regional and local breweries. Let us start out by discussing what a beer consists of. The first ingredient is hops. The hops plant are climbing plants which helps maximize growth. Hops grow on vines, producing tiny flowers that look like soft pine cones. They are resinous and sticky. These flowers are harvested and then dried. Hops are typically associated with the bitterness of a beer. However, hops are also one of the main reasons for the flavors and aromas that a beer produces. There are several different types of hops used in the brewing process. Let us first discuss noble hops. No one really knows where the term noble hops comes from, but we associate this term with their traditional use within European beers. There are 4 noble hops: Tettnanger, Hallertau Middelfru, Saaz and Spalter. The first noble hop is Tettnanger. Bitterness from Tettnang is rich, yet soft. It is a hop most commonly used in northern German pilsners. Hallertau Hersbrucker is a grassy, hay-like aroma hop, and is seldom used for bittering purposes. This is very common in German pilsners. Hallertau Middelfru is typically used for the aroma and then another hop is used for adding bitterness. Saaz is a Bohemian hop, used in almost all Czech pilsners. It offers a soft bitterness and slight fruity aromas. The final noble hop is Spalter. It offers a fine, spicy aroma. Used in all manner of German-style beers, both ale and lager. Is the signature hop for Altbier. Those are the noble hops. Let's take a look at other variations of different types of hops. Oddenum is an aroma-based hops which is cultivated by Yakima Chief ranches. Amarillo is relatively new, but popular. This is a good all-purpose Cascade hop substitute. Brewer's Gold is mainly a bittering hop with a soft bitterness. Sometimes used in aroma variety in conjunction with noble hops. Cascades, or Willamette's hops, are used in most ales. They are used in ales because they produce a floral aroma. Cascades are one of the most popular hops within the brewing community. Centennial hops are similar to Cascade, perhaps with sweeter fruitier notes and a slightly chunkier bitterness. Chinook hops are big, rich, robust bitterness, with woody aroma characteristics that are best used in a blend with other American hops. Crystal hops are used in lagers for their spicy aromas. First Gold is a dwarf hop, which is a spicy, with a high alpha and slightly richer bitterness. Fuggles is a common English hop which produces a juicier, more foresty character. Galena is a widely popular American bittering hop, with a medium bitterness. Wow, that's a lot of hops. But, that is only the one list. We still have another list to run through. Goldings is a soft, earthy hop, widely cultivated, and very common in English ales. Liberty is a very popular English bittering hop. It is used sparingly because of its potency. Lublin, the grassy, hay-like signature of Polish lagers. The bitterness is slightly harsher than noble varieties, but the aroma is a little bit softer. Northdown is a dual-purpose hop in England, with a northern brewer-like bitterness, and modest but refined aroma, well suited to backing up maltier-style beers. Northern Brewer has a moderate bitterness, and an aroma that is quite mellow, and usually used in combination, but best suited for bittering. Pacific Gem from New Zealand contributes a bearish aroma. Has a woody, bearish note yet not very bitter. Simcoe has piney notes and a rounded bitterness. Has made increasing appearances the past couple of years, in both pilsners and ales. Stracel-Spalt is a classic French aroma hop, used mainly in lagers. Fairly neutral character can be tough to detect. Warrior is a new bittering hop, whose popularity is on the rise due to slightly softer bitterness. Willamette is a mild aroma hop, with a herbal, sometimes gently fruity character. There are many more hops than just these. However, It is a good idea to know the difference and the styles of each. The next ingredient is malt. Malt are cereal grains, which is the body of the beer. Most commonly barley is used as the major component to malt. However, some beers use wheat, rice, oats, and rye, and less frequently, corn and sorghum. This is the starch source of the beer. In order to produce alcohol, you must have some sort of sugar involved. This is where the starch comes into play. Grain is malted by soaking it in water, allowing it to begin germination. Malting grain produces enzymes that convert starches in the grain into fermentable sugars. The next ingredient is yeast. Yeast is a single-celled microorganism that ferments various sugars from the malt in the presence of oxygen. The byproduct of fermentation is CO2 and alcohol. Keeping the strain pure and clean is the most important part of the process to ensure reputable fermentation and a consistent final product. There are many strains of yeast, but we will discuss two different types: top fermenting and bottom fermenting yeast. Top fermenting is also known as ale yeast. Ale yeasts are generally regarded as top fermenting yeasts since they rise to the surface during fermentation, creating a very thick, rich yeast head. Ale yeast produces a distinctively fruity flavor to the beer. Top fermenting yeasts are used for brewing ales, porters, stouts, altbier, kolsch, and wheat beers. Bottom fermenting yeast are also known as lager yeasts. Lager yeasts grow less rapidly than ale yeast, and with less surface foam they tend to settle out to the bottom of the fermenter as fermentation nears completion. The final flavor of the beer will depend a great deal on the strain of lager yeast and the temperatures at which it was fermented. Some of the lager styles made from bottom fermenting yeasts are Pilsners, Dortmunders, Marzen, Bocks, and American malt liquors. The final ingredient is water. Water makes up 92 to 95% of the beer. All brewers treat their water to some degree. Some try to find the freshest source of water, while others heat their water to rid the water of chlorine. And some even add ingredients to the water to give a separate taste than their competitors. Nevertheless, water is a very important ingredient within the beer. In this section of Beer 101, we will discuss the brewing process. Most commercial brewing includes 7 steps: malting, mashing, lautering, boiling, fermenting, conditioning, and filtering. Let us begin with malting. Malting is the process where cereal grains are made ready for brewing. Malting is broken down into 3 steps in order to help to release the starches in the cereal. The first stage is steeping. During the steeping process, the cereal is added to a vat with water and allowed to soak for approximately 40 hours. The second stage is germination. During germination, the cereal is spread out on the floor of the germination room for around 5 days. The third and final stage of malting is kilning. Kilning is a high-temperature drying process. The temperature change is gradual so that it doesn't affect the enzymes within the cereal. After the drying is complete, the cereal grains are now called malt. The malt is traditionally broken apart to expose the sugars and carbohydrates hidden within the malt. The next step is mashing. Mashing is the process which converts the starches released during the malting step into sugars that can be fermented. The malt is mixed with hot water in a large vessel known as a mash tun. In this vessel, the grain and water are mixed together to create a cereal mash. During the mash, naturally occurring enzymes present in the malt convert the starches in the grain into smaller molecules or simple sugars. This conversion is called saccharification. The result of the mashing process is a sugar-rich liquid or wort, pronounced wort, which is then strained through the bottom of the mash tun in a process known as lautering. The next step is lautering. Lautering, simply put, is a separation process. Lautering is the separation of the wort, the liquid containing the sugar extracted during mashing, from the cereal. Lautering has 2 stages: wort runoff and sparging. Stage 1 or wort runoff is when the wort is extracted, or separated, in an undiluted state from the spent cereal. Stage 2 or sparging, is where the grains is rinsed off with hot water. The next step is boiling. During the boiling step, the wort and hops are added to a brew kettle. The boiling process is where chemical and technical reactions take place. This is where the releasing of hop flavors occurs. Boiling regulates composition and sterilizes the final wort, so that some protein coagulates, removing a proportion of tannin, and the wort acquires the desired bitterness. After the boiling step, the wort travels from the kettle to the hopback, which cools the wort. Inside the hopback, hops are kept to induce more flavor compounds. It facilitates maximum retention of volatile hop aroma compounds that would normally be driven off when the hops contact the hot wort. Because it is a sealed chamber, the volatile hop compounds are trapped in the hot wort, and then the wort is immediately cooled, which keeps the volatile compounds in solution. The cooled wort is then moved to the fermentationer for the step called fermentation. Fermentation is the conversion of carbohydrates to alcohols and carbon dioxide or organic acids using yeast, bacteria, or a combination thereof. After the wort is cooled, yeast is added to it, and it begins to ferment. This is when the sugar produced during the malting step are metabolized into alcohol. There are three main fermentation methods: warm, cool, and wild or spontaneous. After an initial or primary fermentation, the liquid is now termed as beer. The beer is then conditioned, matured or aged. The conditioning process can take a week to several years to achieve, depending on the brewer's intentions. The beer is moved from the fermenter to a secondary container. The conditioning step varies from brewer to brewer. However, we will cover 5 major conditioning processes. The first step is called krausening. Krausening is a conditioning method in which fermenting wort is added to the finished beer. The active yeast will restart fermentation in the finished beer, and introduce fresh carbon dioxide. The conditioning tank will be then sealed so that the carbon dioxide is dissolved into the beer. This produces a lively level of carbonation. The krausening method may also be used to condition beer in the bottle itself. The second method is lagering. Lagering is where the beer is stored at near freezing temperatures for 1 to 6 months while still on the yeast. Even though the name is associated with lagers, this process can be done with ales as well. The next method is secondary fermentation. Secondary fermentation is where the beer goes through another fermentation process. During secondary fermentation, most of the remaining yeast will settle to the bottom of the second fermenter, yielding a less hazy product. The next conditioning is bottle fermentation. Bottle fermentation is where the product is fermented a second or third time after it has been bottled. They are bottled with a viable yeast population in suspension. If there is no residual fermentable sugar left, sugar and/or wort may be added in a process known as priming. The resulting fermentation generates CO2 that is trapped in the bottle, remaining in solution and providing natural carbonation. Bottle-conditioned beers may be either filled and filtered direct from the fermentation or conditioning tank, or filtered and then reseeded with yeast. The final conditioning is cask conditioning. Cask ale or cask-conditioned beer is the term for unfiltered and unpasteurized beer that is conditioned, including secondary fermentation, and served from a cask. The final step is filtering. Filtering the beer stabilizes the flavor, and gives beer its polished shine and brilliance. Filters come in many types. Many use sheets or candles. Others use a fine powder such as diatomaceous earth, also called kieselguhr. Filters range from rough filters that remove much of the yeast and any solids left in the beer, to filters tight enough to strain color and body from the beer. In this section, we will be discussing the two major categories of beers, and the different styles of beers within those categories. The two different categories of beers are ales and lagers. Ales use yeasts that ferment at the top of the fermentation vessel. Traditionally, ales are fermented at higher temperatures. Because of the higher temperature and the top fermenting yeast, ales have a quicker fermentation period. Typically only 7 to 9 days. Ale yeast are known to produce byproducts called esters, which are flowery and fruity aromas ranging, but not limited to apple, pear, pineapple, grass, hay, plum, and prune. Lagers are brewed with bottom fermenting yeast that work slowly at low temperatures and are often further stored at cool temperature to mature. The fermentation process should take at least 10 days to complete, and anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks storing after fermentation. Lager yeast produces fewer byproduct characteristics than ale yeast. This allows for other flavors to pull through, such as hops. Ales and lagers are relatively different in styles and tastes. However, there are many styles of each category of beer. A style of beer reflects its origin, taste, brewing style, method, and customer acceptance. We will start with the different styles of ales. An amber or red ale ranges from a dark amber to deep red in color. These beers typically focus on the malts for flavor, but hops can be from low to high. In most examples, you will find a malted, balanced beer with slight hops. Two of the more popular versions of this style of ale is Fat Tire Amber Ale, and Stone Brewing Company Levitation. Amber and red ales should always be served in a pint glass. They are paired nicely with beef, chicken, fish or sharp cheddar cheese. Barley wine is deep dark in color, strong, full-bodied dark ale with malt sweetness, distinct hop bitterness and high alcohol. Best if served at room temperature. Barley wines should always be served in a snifter, and they are best paired with a cigar, or a rich dessert. The Bière de Garde is golden to deep copper or light brown in color. They are moderate to medium in body. This style of beer is characterized by a toasted malt aroma, slight malt sweetness and flavor, and medium hop bitterness. Bière de Gardes should be served in champagne or wine glasses. Bière de Gardes are paired well with spicier dishes, also with chicken or beef. Blonde, or golden ales, are pale straw to deep golden color. Usually an all-malt brew, lightly malty palate. Most have a subdued fruitiness. Hop character is of the noble variety, or similar, leaving a light to medium bitterness. Blonde or golden ales should be served in a pint glass. These beers are paired well with Italian cuisine, or fish. Brown ales, or dark ales, are light brown to dark black in color. Aromas of coffee and or nuts, specifically hazelnuts. Slightly hoppy, mildly sweet and full-bodied, these beers should be served in a pint glass. Brown ales or dark ales traditionally go well with beef or chicken, specifically barbecue, Asian stir-fry, earthier cheeses and chocolate. Cream ales are pale straw to pale golden color. They tend to be low in hop bittering, but typically are abundant in hop aromas. Low to high sweetness and well carbonated, cream ales should be served in a pint glass or a stein. Cream ales are paired with sweet or spicy foods. Many Asian and Mexican dishes do well with a cream ale. Hefeweizen are light straw to dark golden in color, usually cloudy when unfiltered. Unique clove and banana aromas. They tend to range from light to full-bodied. You should always serve Hefeweizens in Weizen glasses. Try pairing them with white sausage, cured meats or aged Gouda. India Pale Ale, color can range from very pale golden to reddish amber. Hops are typically big herbal and citric character, bitterness is traditionally rather high. These beers are moderate to medium in body. Serve India Pale Ales in pint glasses. IPAs tend to complement spicy dishes, Mexican, Asian or Indian food or sweet desserts like chocolate cake or crème brûlée. Pale ale, color ranges from a light straw to a darker golden. A balanced between malt and hops. Fruitiness can vary greatly from none to moderate, and bitterness can range from lightly floral to pungent. Pale ales are best served in a pint glass. They tend to pair best with smoky or spicy meats, and complements blue cheese. Porters range from dark brown to black in color. Heavily malted with black or chocolate malt, which adds to the dark color. Hoppy bitterness ranges from beer to beer, but always very balanced. They can range from bitter to mild and malty sweet. Body can range from light to full-bodied. Porters should be served in a pint, mug or stein. Porters are paired well with smoked or grilled meats, especially bacon, and chocolate. Stouts are brown to black in color. Aromas of coffee and chocolate, which tend to prevail as their major flavor component. The hop bitterness can be a medium to a high. Stouts should always be served in a pint glass. Stouts pair well with dishes with more savory sauces, smoked meats or in general heavier foods. Even though there are many more styles of ales, these are the ones that we will discuss today. Now, let us take a look at the styles of lagers. American or American light lagers are light-bodied, pale, fizzy lagers made popular by the large large breweries, of America after Prohibition. These beers tend to be low in bitterness, have thin malts, and are moderate alcohol. These beers can be served in a pint glass or mug. American lagers, or American light lagers, tend to complement Hispanic and Asian cuisines. Bock are dark amber to brown in color. Hop bitterness can be assertive enough to balance but never overshadows the malt flavor. Most are only lightly hoppy. Flavors are rich, sweet caramels and warm, toasty. Bocks should be served in a flute or Pilsner glass. Bocks should be served with German cuisine and gamey meats. California Common, or steam beers are 100% American-style lager, utilizing a lager yeast which works best at warmer temperatures. They tend to be light amber to tawny in color, medium-bodied with a malty character, mildly fruity with an assertive hop bitterness. These beers are best served in a Pilsner or a pint glass. California Common, or steam beers, are best served with Cajun or Caribbean food, blue cheese and great with pork dishes. Pilsner are light straw to golden color and crystal clear. Hops are very prevalent, usually with a spicy bitterness and or a spicy floral flavor and aroma. Smooth and crisp with a clean malty palate, many are grassy. Finish is always refreshing. Pilsners should always be served in a Pilsner glass. These beers are paired well with Asian cuisine. And this concludes our lesson on styles of beers.